Greetings, gamers. I'm Beb Roth.
And I'm Shootkapow.
And you're listening to Very Good Music.
Pikmin podcast.
All right, everyone. So, welcome back, and as you are listening to this, we are in the midst of our 6 week-to-week episodes that I'm crazy, and we're somehow trying to pack all of this in by the end of June. But I am super excited, and it's really been a blast. Really enjoyed our back-to-back cat episodes the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
With Dusk and then with Ryan. And I am really excited, though, tonight to get back to just you and me, Shootkapow. I really like these episodes because we get to talk about a lot of fun stuff. Now, next week is going to be closest to normal because it's actually going to be you picking 7 tracks and me picking 7 tracks. However, tonight, for this very special episode, you actually picked all 14 of our tracks because our patrons picked Pikmin. And you love this series. So yes. I was like, hey, you should pick all of the songs.
I'm picking all of the songs.
I don't know them as well as you do. So, yeah, Pikmin. We're going to talk a little bit about this series, but why don't you remind us, what was your first experience with the Pikmin franchise?
Somehow we got Pikmin 2. I don't really remember how. And then I played it and liked it.
Yeah, I think I got it. I don't remember when, but I thought it looked kind of cool and fun. Mostly, it was after we got Brawl, Smash Brothers Brawl, because it was mostly because Olimar was in there and we wanted to know a little more about that. But, we got Pikmin 2, and I thought that you would enjoy it, and then you ended up enjoying the series even more than I did. You've actually played Pikmin 1, which I don't think I've even played a minute of Pikmin 1.
Good. It's terrible.
But I have played and beaten Pikmin 3.
Yo, nice.
And I did beat Pikmin 2 once. That final boss is really, really tough. But we'll get into all of that. For now, what is your first track of the show?
First up, I have the title theme from Pikmin 1.
Okay, let's go ahead and hear that, and when we come back, we'll start talking a little more about the series and its first game.
Yes. And that was the main theme from Pikmin.
Really, really cool little tune, and I think probably it's a good starting point, not just because it's the title of the first game, but because it really lays the foundation for a lot of the musical elements that we're going to hear. Nature sounds, percussion, and that do-do-do-do-do, which is the motif that the whole series follows.
Yep. Pikmin 1 was released in 2001 by Nintendo for the GameCube.
Yes, 2001. The series is 20 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And it'll
be 20 years old in October.
Yep. Just like me.
Except you won't be 20 years old.
No, I was 18 when this game came out.
Wow.
I actually had just turned, 2001, I was turning 19 the month that this came out. So, That's crazy business, man. Well, this soundtrack was composed by
Hajime Wakai.
That's right. And Hajime Wakai was the main composer for the whole series. A couple of other composers did come in on Pikmin 3, which we will talk about when we get there. But Wakai was the sole composer for both Pikmin and Pikmin 2. Hajime Wakai was born on July 5th, 1973. He has worked with Nintendo since the N64 era.
Yes.
His first game was, do you remember? We've talked about it before. He composed it with Koji Kondo. Wasn't one of Kondo's main series. Although Wakai is really heavily involved in the Zelda series these days. Mm-hmm. Wakai's first game, any type of sound, but he was a composer on it, was Star Fox 64.
Ah!
He actually is the composer of the Star Wolf theme, among other themes.
Whoa, nice.
He is most well known for his work on Star Fox, Pikmin, and Legend of Zelda titles. He actually recorded some of the voice samples for the Pikmin, so some of the little Pikmin squeaks are Hajime Wakai. In the Wii era, he started working as a sound director for some titles, like he worked on the Big Brain series, a couple of the Wii games, and then on Nintendo Land for the Wii U. But then also he became a sound director in Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, and so he's really, like I said, involved in the Zelda series over the last couple of games. And he has worked exclusively, from what I could see, as a sound director and not a composer since 2016. So it does seem to be kind of his new era. Now, Pikmin, how many tracks do you have from each game tonight?
From Pikmin 1, I have 4. From Pikmin 2, I have the most with 7.
Mm-hmm. That's a nostalgic choice, so.
Yeah. For Pikmin 3, I have 3.
Okay. If I remember, Pikmin 3's music was really a lot more ambient. It didn't have a whole lot of really super catchy melodic tunes in it. Pikmin 1, the primary one I remember is I No Uta, which we played on our Love Themes episode, but if we have it again tonight, that's fine. Since that was a bonus episode, and I'm not even sure how many people caught it. So Pikmin, every area has a different musical theme, right?
Yeah.
Music changes depending on the time of day, also. During the day, the normal tune plays. Once the light starts to fade, and it's time to get all the Pikmin ready, the music changes to like a calmer version of what it was. Does that sound right?
Yep.
This is all research I found online since I haven't played this game. In challenge mode, the music that normally plays for the current level is sped up, as well as the darker remix. It plays faster in challenge mode. Yeah. Sometimes, when you're close to an enemy creature, more percussion and occasional brass splashes are added to the song, which make it, a little bit more intense, like a sense of danger is added to it. And this kind of dynamic music is really something that Wakai, I think, stands out in Wakai's work, because the music of the Pikmin series, because of the way the gameplay works, you don't really have different, stage music. So you have this music that has to be ambient enough that it doesn't get annoying, but also good enough that it's memorable. It's that sort of balance that a lot of the best composers can strike. I No Uta, the theme song, which I mentioned before, was actually also covered by a band called Strawberry Flower. We talked about this a little bit on the Love Themes episode. And they released it as a single, along with the release of Pikmin. And they also have released some other Pikmin-themed singles and albums throughout their career, so they're also kind of tied to the series. There was an official soundtrack released for Pikmin, which this was kind of early for Nintendo to do this, back in 2001. The soundtrack is called Pikmin Worlds. Now, there is one game, I want to go ahead and get this out of the way up front, one game that you did not mention that is in the Pikmin series that we're not playing anything from. Mm-hmm. Why didn't we pick anything from Hey Pikmin?
Because it's garbage.
Have you played it?
No, but RJ's told me about the Hey Pikmin experience, and apparently it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't look very fun. The music, from what little I have heard of it, is pretty good, but it doesn't really have any meaning for us because we've never played it. Same thing with, even though we have Nintendo Land, we've never played the Pikmin minigame in that, and so. But you also don't have any Smash remixes of Pikmin tunes, which I thought was kind of interesting. But, maybe if we end up going a little long a couple of times, I can play the Smash nature sounds that play on the Pikmin stage while we're talking. That'd be fun. Okay, so that's all I have to say. What do you say? You want to play one of your other 4 songs for this, and then when we come back, talk a little about your experience with Pikmin 1?
Yep.
Okay, cool. What have we got next?
Next up, from Pikmin 1 again, we have Impact Site. This was Impact Site from Pikmin, released in 2001 and composed by Hajime Wakai. I'm not doing this every time.
Yeah, no, we don't have to do that every time. That's fine. So I mentioned that the music in these games, or at least this game, is dynamic. Are you playing like the normal version of these themes?
Yes.
Okay. For anybody who doesn't know, briefly, Pikmin is a real-time strategy game that plays differently than a lot of the other RTSs that you may have heard before. In this game, you play as a spaceman, and you land on this planet, and you find these native sort of plant-animal hybrid creatures that you can order around and have find things for you and bring back to you, while at the same time defending against enemies or getting them for like bonus points.
Bonus units. You mean.
Yeah, it's a real-time strategy game. But Impact Site, I think this is a good place for you to start talking. What is the story of Pikmin, the first game?
So, Olimar's out on a work vacation, just flying through space like you do.
A little bit of trivia, Olimar's name is based on an inversion of Mario.
Yeah.
Orima Mario.
Yeah. Before Pikmin, there was this little Mario thingy that they did. They showed off at some sort of gaming thingy or something. And it was just like a bunch of different Mario CPUs running around, just like showing off what the GameCube could handle, predating Pikmin.
Okay. Huh. Neat. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, so he, his ship just gets destroyed by a meteor, even though he has 2 thingies that he can activate to get himself out of danger. So his...
Not a very adept spaceman, I guess.
Yeah. So he falls onto this planet, and his ship just like kind of falls apart on the way down.
So Impact Site is where he lands.
Yes.
Gotcha.
His ship just face plants into the ground, and he face plants into the ground after falling out of it. So
you get out, and this music plays.
Yes.
I can tell now that this game is 20 years old. These sound fonts are...
Yep.
This is early MIDI stuff. Not super early, but... But that doesn't detract from... I mean, it's a weird tune, but it's definitely got a strong melodic core to it. Why did you choose this track?
Because it's the first area, Okay.
It's
sort of tutorial level.
So what do you do in this area? I assume you find a Pikmin.
Yes, you
Is
go
it
up to...
the red Pikmin you find first, like in the other games?
Yes.
Okay.
The red Pikmin's always the first, the blue Pikmin's always the last. That's sort of how it goes.
I thought the blue Pikmin were...
Man, I wish we could have RJ here for this.
In 2. Huh.
I
thought it went red, blue, yellow.
No, you actually
white.
get the reds, then you get the purples, and...
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so it's fine. Red, and then we find blue and yellow, or yellow and blue later. And the red Pikmin are resistant to fire.
Yes.
And they have mouths. No, they have noses.
They have noses,
but no mouths
and they
or
also
ears.
have times 1.5 attack power, greater attack power than the other two.
And briefly describe what a Pikmin is.
Yes, a Pikmin is a sort of, like, really small... It's like a little dude. So, for a bit of context here, Olimar's like 3 inches tall, compared to us.
Right.
And the Pikmin are like... maybe 2.
Yeah, they're about half his height.
Yeah. So...
A little taller maybe with the leaf flower thing.
They're just like the little dudes. And each of them have different colors and different attributes. So they're basically like a little humanoid creature.
Yeah, a little humanoid creature.
It's part plant, part
animal.
Yes, part plant, part animal. All of them have eyes, but some of the different ones have different sort of attributes.
Mm-hmm.
The yellow ones have these big, long elf ears. The
blue ones have mouths.
The blue ones have mouths, and the red ones have little pointy noses.
Mm-hmm. They start out with a leaf on a little stem on top of their head.
Yes, and
then as they get stronger, it turns into they drink nectar.
They drink nectar and they get flowers. And you can also
into a bud and then a flower.
No, they drink nectar to get the flowers, but you can leave them in the ground for a bit, and then they go to bud and then flower.
Oh, okay. So the nectar takes them straight to flower. Okay, yeah. Gotcha. And yeah, so they all have different attributes, like Shukapow said. The yellow ones you can throw higher, and they are immune to electricity. And in Pikmin 3, as we get to later, they can also throw bombs. The blue ones can go underwater, which is super, super handy, and is a really, really great way to, like, expand the world.
Yeah.
Like vertical expansion, almost in a sense, although it's vertical downward.
Yeah.
Because it's the same area, but now you can go to new places in it because you have Pikmin that can go to these areas, so it's really cool. And I think it makes sense that they're the last Pikmin you meet, because you've already explored these areas and kind of you're reaching the limits of what you can find, and then all of a sudden the rest of it's unlocked for you. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, landing or impact site.
Oh my gosh.
You find your first Pikmin, then what happens?
Pikmin's a real-time strategy Metroidvania.
It kind of is, isn't it? Cool. Alright. What happens after you find your first Pikmin?
So, actually, first you find the onion, which is the Pikmin's sort of mother base. Apparently, it looks like a sort of squashed onion when it's in the ground. Then it goes up and has 3 little spindly legs that go down to the ground. And it's got a little flower helicopter thingy on top. So a little Pikmin bud shoots out of that and goes into the ground. And then you wait 5 hours for it to sprout. And when it finally does, you pick it, and you got a little Pikmin that are following you.
Then you figure out what they do, and
then you throw them at flowers, and they eat the flowers.
And pellets fall down.
Yes, and then you take those back to the onion.
And the onion makes more Pikmin.
Yes.
And that's how you get more Pikmin. That's how you grow your little Pikmin army. Can you take 100 with you in the first game, like in the other ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
The limit's 100 in all of the games.
Okay. So, alright. Cool. And then you use the Pikmin, and you start looking for the pieces of your ship so that you can go home. Or finish your mission.
Yes.
All right. And so, what is your next track from Pikmin 1?
My next track will be today's results. And that was today's results from Pikmin. All of them.
Oh yeah, this theme is reused. Cool. Alright. Well, what is a day like in the Pikmin games?
So you get down...
Or in the first Pikmin game, rather.
Yeah, you get down to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
You go over to the onions and get out whichever Pikmin you need.
So, yeah, at the end of the day, you have to go back up in your ship because at nighttime, all the really dangerous critters come out.
Yes.
So before you go up in your ship, you have to get your Pikmin back to their onion, because if you don't, they will die. And your onion follows you up into space, right?
Yeah, all of them do.
Yep. The onion follows you up into space, and then so you get back down, you get the Pikmin out of your onion.
Oh yeah, a pretty important thing. The creatures on the planet, which Olimar names PNF 404, they're all nocturnal. So, well, pretty much all nocturnal. And so, the Pikmin have to be in the onion at nighttime, or, it's gonna...
They'll be eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the daytime, these critters are still all around, like most famously the Bulborb, which looks like a ladybug, but with a really big mouth and 2 big legs.
Yeah.
And they'll be sleeping during the day, most of them.
Yeah.
And you can attack them, or you can try to, stealth your way around them or by them. You have different ways you can approach it. But each day you go about your business trying to find more parts for your ship. And in the first game, you have a limit. How many days do you have?
You have 30.
30 days to find your ship and get everything completed.
Yes.
What else are you trying to do? What gets you points during the day?
So, yeah, when Olimar crash landed, the ship parts went to all the different areas. There's, I think, 5. Mm-hmm. There's Impact Site, there's Forest of Hope, there's Forest Naval, there's Distant Spring, and there's, I think it's called Final Trial.
Okay. Why did you say Distant Spring that way?
I hate it. I hate it so much.
Is that where you are right now?
Yes.
So what happened tonight? I heard you're discontent.
It was mostly just about the Pikmin's awful pathfinding.
Yeah, the AI in this game is not always super great, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Shukapao actually is playing through the first Pikmin game again.
Yes, I am.
And right now you're in the Distant Spring area. But yeah, what are you trying to... Each day you're trying to get all the ship parts. Are you trying to do anything else in the first game?
You can kill things and bring them back to the different onions to get more Pikmin. Mm-hmm. There's actually an enemy called the Smoky Prog, and... Yeah,
it's the first spirit you fight in Smash Ultimate.
Yep. And it's ridiculous. It leaves this trail behind it, and if it touches Pikmin with that, they just instantly die.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah. But if you beat it, you get this little thing that gives you 100 Pikmin for bringing it back to the onion.
At the end of each day, I remember in Pikmin 2, Olimar often has little fun things to say about what happened that day, a diary entry.
Yeah, I think that's Pikmin 1. Then
okay.
Then actually, I think he does do that in Pikmin 2, and there's also little letters from.
Oh yeah, from his wife and daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Pikmin 1, yeah, you get back up to space, and you have your little diary entry, and your score is based on how many Pikmin survived and how many parts you found?
Yeah.
Basically? Okay, gotcha. Cool. So yeah, Pikmin 1 seems fairly simple and straightforward in that way, which is, what you want from the first game in a series. And, yeah, well, why don't we go ahead, if you're ready. We can play the last song from Pikmin 1.
Which is Forest of Hope.
I knew we were going to get here. Okay, very cool. Let's hear it.
that was Forest of Hope from Pikmin.
Very nice. This is a really pretty little track. I like this one a lot. This is one of your favorites from the series, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like that we're playing these first four because we're really getting a sense of Wakai's range, and I think we're also hearing, possibly, this is completely conjecture on my part, but some of his influences. That first one, the first one was kind of his own thing, I think, but Impact Site really makes me think of quirky composers like Kazumi Totaka of Animal Crossing fame, Mario Paint, some of the Yoshi stuff.
Yeah, Mario Paint.
Yeah. The second one, or the third one you played, the results screen, actually reminds me a little bit of some of Hip Tanaka's slower stuff, things like Metroid, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then this one really shows like the melodic nature, the sort of cinematic nature. This could almost be in a Mario game. It's similar to something you might hear from Koji Kondo, but also later on from like Mahito Yokota and some of the Mario Galaxy stuff, which this predated, by the way.
Yeah.
But this was really, really nice. I like it a lot. And it's not right on like the grid, like do 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 do. That retardando there toward the end of the loop was really, really cool. So, what is the Forest of Hope area like? When do you go to it? Is it like the first one after the impact site? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you sort of land on the planet in this little sort of enclosed area. You've got to use the Pikmin to break down a wall.
Okay.
And so once you do that, there's this like little shore area, and then a little sort of pond next to it.
Okay.
So you go right, and you find some Bulblax sleeping there. And then another wall. There's also pellet posies all over the place in Syria.
So it really helps you build up your Pikmin.
Yeah.
You still just have red at this point?
Yeah. But then when you break down the wall, there's a yellow onion there, and that's where you get yellow Pikmin. The yellow Pikmin can, in this game, all they can do is pick up bombs and be thrown slightly higher than the other Pikmin. That's all they do.
Oh, so this game has the bombs too?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
This one and 3, I think, are the only ones. Then in 2, you can't pick them up. They just drop from the ceiling and kill you.
Ugh. Anyway, so Forest of Hope. That's where you find the yellow Pikmin. I really like in this place, like when you're just doing like normal going through the game stuff.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like a level theme. It's really I don't know why. I don't know why I say that.
It's pretty chill.
It is chill. It's very chill. I like it a lot. Is all the area music in the game kind of calming like this?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, we are not devoting a whole episode to each of these soundtracks, although we really probably could.
There's a lot more behind the Forest of Hope. Like, you got the big open area, but then back behind that, there's a bunch of little twisting pathways over to the right area. There's a bunch of bosses. There's like 5 Snagrets, which are these little snakes. Not little. Like they're these big snakes with egret heads.
Yeah. They're terrifying. And we will have pictures of some of these enemies in the art that you can see on YouTube. It's just the cover at this point, but we'll definitely have some of these critters there. And so we're not doing a full focus on each of these soundtracks, even though we probably could, because there is all the music is really great in these games.
Yep.
But it is about time we move on. But before we do, you need to tell us what happens in this game. Oh, and by the way, spoiler alert, we are going to talk about like most of the stories here. How does the Pikmin end?
So the canon ending is like you get all 30 of your ship parts, and you sort of like say goodbye to the Pikmin, and you blast off into space, and then like a bunch of other onions follow you. There's like black ones and green ones and brown ones and pink ones. It's ridiculous. I don't know where all that came from.
Wow,
they just like sort of come up into the atmosphere to say goodbye to you.
Wow. They could totally do something with that.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
They could do something with that in Pikmin 4.
Pikmin 4. we pine after that.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, he goes home, and his business goes bankrupt, right?
Yep.
What he works for, the shipping business he works for. And
Yep.
why does that happen?
Louis.
Do we know this yet at the beginning?
Here's where we introduce Louis. Also, we do not.
Did we ever determine if Louis is actually related to Olimar? Or if he's just a co-worker?
I don't know.
I still feel like he's like Olimar's nephew or something, but...
Maybe.
We know he's a co-worker, and... so who is Louis?
So, Louis is a new employee of Hakatate Freight, which is...
Hakatate is Olimar's home planet.
Yes, and then... Yes.
And the president of Hakatate Freight informs Olimar at the beginning of Pikmin 2 that...
They were out delivering a shipment of golden Pick carrots, which the Pikmin were actually named after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pick carrots are Hakatate's main export.
Yeah, they've got the little... They're carrots with two little... They split off into two little ends.
Oh, yeah.
And then it has the little
stem, which
stem
Pikmin
with
also had.
Yeah.
So. And they were out delivering this, and what happened to it?
I've got a theory that... Because Louis was on the delivery thingy, he says he was ambushed by a ravenous space bunny that ate the carrots, but as we find out later, Louis is a...
glutton?
Yes, he is. And I'm pretty sure he ate them.
Okay, alright. So, Pikmin 2 starts out with you having to go back to PNF 404, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you need to make money so that the business won't fail.
You gotta find treasure.
Find treasure. And what is your first track from Pikmin 2?
The title theme from Pikmin 2.
Okay,
It's actually different than the normal one. That was title theme from Pikmin 2, released in 2004 for the Nintendo Wii, and also composed by Hajime Wakai.
So Pikmin 2 came out 3 years after Pikmin 1.
Yep.
And really just built on the formula a lot. This has a pretty different structure, which we'll get into. Pikmin 2 features distinctive music in both the overworld areas and, newly introduced in this game, the caves. Music in the caves is often minimalistic. It seems to be chosen according to how difficult the cave is and the kind of hazards that you find. In rest areas, there's a soft melody, there's safe zones in caves. But the music in Pikmin 2 plays as a number of different variations on a theme. There are a couple of different factors. It changes when the Pikmin interfere with monsters, when they carry treasure. Tempo decreases when the captain that you're playing as, which we'll get to in a second, loses life. If you use either Louis or the secret unlockable third player, the president, then the music has, actually, interestingly enough, changes to a time signature of 6/8 or 9/8 instead of the 3/4 or 4/4 that you have with Olimar, which is kind of cool. Above ground, the music also changes depending on the time of day, just like in the first Pikmin game. And another song from Strawberry Flower called Tane no Uta was used for the advertising in Pikmin 2. So yeah, that's kind of the music in this game. What is some of your experience with this game? What do you like about this one? What do you remember?
It's a lot better than Pikmin 1.
Well, do you want to... What is your first in-game track?
Well, first off, I've got the map theme.
Okay, cool. And then we can talk a little more about the areas in this game. You mentioned there are 5 in Pikmin 1. When we come back from listening to the map theme, we'll talk a little more about the layout of Pikmin 2.
Yes. Tails world map from Pikmin 2.
Very cool. Very cool. And so, yeah, in this game, you, unlike Pikmin 1, where you're trying to just repair the ship, in this game, as we mentioned, you're going around and collecting treasures. And that's really cool, because the little treasures are actually, like, debris from, well, again, spoiler alert, PNF 404 is actually what planet?
Earth.
It is Earth.
It's post-apocalyptic Earth after all the humans are killed by the Pikmin.
Yep. And
it's a theory, though. I explained it before on the show.
Yeah. And so you go around and find these treasures, which are, it's really just trash from when we were here. And you take it back and lift it up into your ship, and it tells you how many...
but I'll explain that when we get there.
What's the currency in this game?
Pokos.
Pokos. It tells you how many Pokos it's worth. And, yeah, so... you can find these things on the overworld after overcoming certain obstacles. You can also go into caves and explore the caves and find a lot of these things. Sometimes they're just like sitting out there. Sometimes you get them by beating an enemy. Yep. But that's sort of the whole story in this game. Well, another cool factor in this game is that, as I mentioned, you can play as multiple captains. And you can kind of have two different things going on in different areas. Which is really, really expanded on in Pikmin 3, but first made its introduction here.
Yes.
So, yeah. I like this game a lot. So I played a lot of this game. I played a lot of
Pikmin 2 is very fun.
I played a lot of this game back when it first came out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff. Alright, so yeah, in this area, what is the first area that you... Or in this game, what's the first area that you land in?
So, of course, you crash in Valley of Repose, which is the cold, wintry area. Mm-hmm. Just sort of a theme we're starting off. There are 4 areas in Pikmin 2, and they're all based on the different seasons.
Oh yeah! I remember that. I'd forgotten that little thing. But you crash, like you said. You don't land safely like you meant to.
Yes, and Louis falls out of the ship.
Of course he does. So Louis is actually the first captain you play as in this game, right? I know he's the one who finds the onion. But maybe
you play as Olimar first.
Okay, you play as Olimar first, and then it switches to Louis.
Yeah.
Louis finds the onion, and then they get reunited.
Yeah. Olimar actually sees 5 red Pikmin beating up a dwarf Bulborb, which is just a small Bulborbs.
Ah, gotcha. Right. Okay. So, when does your next track come into play?
This is the Valley of Repose theme, actually.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and hear it.
Alright, and that was Valley of Repose.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that's a winter track.
Yep.
The sleigh bells and sort of the chimey percussion. It's got that echoey sound to it. This is quite nice. This is what, Shukapow?
Very good music.
Yep. I don't remember this theme at all. I'll be interested to see if I recognize some of the music from Pikmin 2. Because I did play it a lot. But, yeah, so what happens? Kind of how does this whole thing start out? Once they get to the planet. We know how it likes,
Yes. So they get reunited, and they find their first piece of treasure, a Duracell battery. One of the fat ones.
What is it called?
A Duracell battery.
No, in the game.
Oh.
Because another funny thing about these treasures is that they have fancy names, even though you can see on the screen what they obviously are.
Yeah. Durable energy cell. Oh wait, no, this one's the courage reactor. The durable energy cell is in the shower room.
Is it like a different Duracell battery?
It's just a slightly less fat Duracell battery.
Okay, so this is like a D battery.
Ooh, I just saw the name Submerged Castle, and I'm terrified now.
Well, we will probably get there.
We will get there.
I always thought that a cool thing they could do at Pikmin 4 is it would have to be unlockable because you don't want to put it behind a paywall, but instead of finding treasures, like if you have an amiibo, you could scan it into the game and you could find that amiibo and they could come up with cute names for them. Yeah. That would be really fun. But yeah, so you find your first treasure, and then another cool thing about the treasures is that some of them don't just get you Pokos, they also like enhance your ship with other abilities. They give you other things that you can, like other tools you can use in the field, right?
Yeah. There's a thingy that, like, it's like a dowsing machine in Pokemon. It sort of tells you when you're near treasures.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So that you can see them easily underground, because the white Pikmin can see things underground.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they can. And
the new Pikmin, I'll explain that in a second.
The white Pikmin also can walk through poison, like the red ones can walk through fire. Yeah, and they are also poisonous if they get eaten by an enemy.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are no more bomb rocks in this game, but now yellow Pikmin have the power to harness lightning. By which I mean they can walk through electricity when it instantly kills everything else. And the purple Pikmin are OP.
Yeah, they're very, very strong and very, very heavy. And they have lots of attack power.
Yes. They're 10 times as strong as normal Pikmin when carrying things, and
they're also very
10
slow.
times as heavy. And they are very slow.
You have to manage, like if you're walking, you have to kind of keep stopping so the purple Pikmin can catch up.
The thing with the purples is though that when you like slam them on the ground next to an enemy, it like stuns the enemy for 5 years.
Yeah. Now they are not. There's not a purple or white onion in this game.
Nope.
So how do you get purple and white Pikmin?
They you throw them into little flowers that you find mainly underground.
Yeah, so you throw your red, yellow, and blue Pikmin, whichever one you have the most of, into, or the ones you don't need as much in that area, you throw them into a flower and get the other Pikmin.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And then you put them in the ship.
Oh yeah, the
which
ship.
Is sentient.
So they can go into any... Oh no, they go into the ship with you.
Yes.
Yeah, the ship is sentient this time. It has kind of a mind of its own.
Yes.
It has lots of quirky, snarky things to say. So, lead us on. Continue the story.
Yes. So you get to Awakening Wood, which is the reskin of Forest of Hope.
And that's the second area in this game.
Yes.
Which is spring. Because Awakening and winter, spring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you got purple Pikmin in Valley of Repose. I forgot to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
You find them in the first cave you get to, and then you get a little half of a globe. So that expands your range, and you go to Awakening Wood. And you go through the area, explore a little bit, and you find this cave called the Bulblax something.
Oh, the Bulblax.
List of caves, Awakening Wood. The Hole of Beasts. The Bulblax Kingdom is a completely different hole. Anyway, so you go into this hole called the Hole of Beasts, and there's many, many Bulborbs inside of it.
There are lots of Bulborbs in this game, and lots of different kinds of Bulborbs. There are actually some little Bulborbs that you can have join your party temporarily called Bulbmen. They're cool.
And there's also Bulbears, which were in the first game, but now they come back to life after you kill them very slowly.
I hate them.
them.
The Bulborbs. Anyway, Bulbears are the worst. So this is the music that plays in the Hole of Beasts?
Yes, no, this is the boss theme, which plays when you fight the boss, big Empress Bulblax that you find at the end of the hole.
And we will talk about the Empress when we get back.
Yes. This is the boss theme from Pikmin 2, and it's super cool.
It is super cool. Man, that goes a lot of places, and...
Those trumpet stings, though.
I definitely remember this. Yeah, those trumpet stings. So, we'll talk a little about it in a second. But first, I have to say, if this were not a G-rated podcast, I would call the Empress Bulblax something very not nice, because I hate this boss. Hate it. This is the boss theme for all the bosses, but we were talking story-wise about Empress Bulblax. This thing... It's a big, like, what you think of as like a queen ant type thing, so it's got this huge... butt, like Queen Slug for a butt in Earthworm Jim. And you can only attack its head, and then it throws the Pikmin off, and if it rolls around while the Pikmin are beside it, they instantly die.
Yep.
You can lose like all your Pikmin in one shot. And if you lose all your Pikmin, that's how you die in these games. Yeah, hate it. Anyway, so talk a little about this track, Shukapow, and what each of the little different musical motifs, or different, not motifs, the musical evolutions means. So you got kind of the baseline music.
Yes.
Which is intense enough. And then you get those little trumpet stings.
Yeah.
What do those mean?
Yeah, those are like the 4 different types of boss attacks. Gotcha. And then you got the big one, like... Very
nice.
Yeah.
Alright. And then, of course, that really, really cool little ending stinger. That felt so good when you finally... Some of these bosses, especially, like the Empress Bulblax and the Titan Dweevil, which is the final boss, when you hear that, it's just so... It's just this release. Yeah. And it's so good. So good. Love it so much. Alright, so each cave has a boss.
Yeah.
One thing I think is kind of fun, the Emperor Bulblax, which is not nearly as impressive as the Empress Bulblax, is like a common enemy in this game, right? But he was a boss in the first Pikmin.
Yes, the Emperor Bulblax.
Yes.
That was the final boss in the first Pikmin. And it was super difficult. In this one, it's a complete pushover if you have enough purples.
But it's not a common enemy.
Much smaller.
It's not a common enemy, it's like one of the first bosses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then later in the game...
It's smaller?
Yeah, for some reason. It's like a big green raisin with a head. Then later, in one of the later caves in Wistful Wild, there's like 3 of them in a room.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, the Emperor Bulblax, it just like sits under the ground. It's got like those little snail eyes poking up.
Mm-hmm.
You could easily
spot.
Yeah.
You can attack the Bulborbs anywhere, but if you get them in the eyes, it messes them up.
Yeah, at least in Pikmin 3. Yes. It's got the little eyes that you can pretty easily mistake for like little plants when they're just poking out of the ground.
Yeah.
And then it just FNAF jump scares you.
Alright, so after you beat the Hole of Beasts, where do you go next?
Yes, after that you go to the Snagret Hole, where you find the white Pikmin.
Oh, the Snagret Hole. I remember this place.
You get to the bottom
this is
and...
the last cave that you find in the Awakening Wood, I think.
Actually,
or maybe that's the Cave of Spiders. I don't know.
The spider one's a Perplexing Pool. You do the Bulblax Kingdom after this one when you get the yellows.
Okay.
And then once you get the blues, you can go over to the
Perplexing Pool.
No, wait.
Well, anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Just a second. White Flower Garden, that's where you get the white Pikmin. It has a Snagret at the bottom, and the white Snagret Hole is the one with all the Snagrets.
Okay, so right now we're going to the White Flower Garden.
Yes.
Okay.
To get the whites.
Cool. So, White Flower Garden. That's a nice name.
Yeah.
I can imagine a song called White Flower Garden being a nice song.
Yeah.
Is that the one we're playing next?
No.
Wow. What's the one we're playing
next? I didn't
next?
actually bring the Bulblax Kingdom theme. But anyway, what we do have next is Perplexing Pool, where you go after you get the second half of the globe, and...
Which...
Actually, after you get the white Pikmin.
So you get the white Pikmin, you get the blue Pikmin, in Perplexing Pool?
No, you get the blue Pikmin once you go back to Awakening Wood after you get the yellows in Perplexing Pool.
Oh. Okay, so you go to Perplexing Pool, you don't have the blue ones yet.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just hear from the sound of this area. This is an area where you're going to need the blues eventually.
Yeah.
Perplexing Pool is the autumn area of the
It's
game.
actually Distant Spring, which was the... Yeah.
Perplexing Pool is the autumn area of the game, and so this place is...
No, Perplexing Pool is the summer area, and then...
Oh, that's right, because it goes winter, spring, summer, and then autumn.
Yeah.
And I remember the last area, so that's obviously autumn. This is the summer area, and you said Perplexing Pool is really similar to Distant Spring?
It's actually... It's another map reskin.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, well, let's go ahead and listen to Perplexing Pool, and when we get back, we'll talk a little more about some of these other Pikmin.
All right. And that was Perplexing Pool from Pikmin 2.
That was kind of a perplexing track. It's nice. I like the keyboard, but the rhythm the syncopation's really weird on this one.
Yeah.
That background instrument, and then the piano kind of added in. It's almost kind of reminiscent of like later on like the shrine music in Breath of the Wild in some ways, which Hajime Wakai was involved with. So So you mentioned this is kind of a reskin of which area of Pikmin 1?
The Distant Spring.
The Distant Spring. Okay. So you get here, and you find yellow Pikmin here, and then you have to go back to the forest and find blue Pikmin?
Yeah.
And then you can come back here and explore more, because it's a pool, and so obviously you need Pikmin that can breathe underwater. Yeah. Cool. Alright. So you get to, and the Perplexing Pool is the summer area. As we mentioned, the Pikmin 2 areas are kind of, they each correlate to one of the seasons.
Yes.
So kind of what happens from here?
Well, first off, as much as I hate Distant Spring, I love Perplexing Pool.
Why is that?
It's just such a chill area to go around, and this has the, what's it called? The Glutton's Kitchen, which is a pretty chill, relaxing dungeon.
The Glutton's
Bit of a
Kitchen.
break from all the weirdness.
Remind me what the Glutton's Kitchen is like.
It's sort of like one of those caves that's like, it's not like a cave, it's more like a sort of dark playroom. It's got like the little carpet, all those little toy blocks.
Yeah,
and it's got the bread bugs.
Oh, the bread bugs. Yeah.
The bread bugs.
So this kind of leads us into something. In the first Pikmin game, Olimar had like little diary entries whenever he would go up, and you would have the results.
Yeah, the Picklepedia.
He does.
Oh wait, no, the Picklepedia is a different thing. Yeah,
and this one he does as well. But he also, I think, has the Picklepedia where he talks about the different animals.
Yeah.
So sometimes you also get letters from home. But
Louis also has
Louis
entries.
has a Picklepedia entry as well,
but his all have to do with food and how the enemies taste.
Cook all of them. I think there's a really funny one. Getting this from the Pikmin fandom wiki. Okay, category, Louis notes. Okay, I'm gonna look at some of the funniest ones that really should not be cooked. Like the anode beetle, that electric little beetle that electrics with other things. Drain the electrical charge before boiling. Although it's possible to eat an anode beetle while it's charged, doing so may result in an unpleasant tingling sensation. Man-at legs. For any of you who don't know, the man-at legs is a big robotic spider. Although the meat is a bit on the metallic side, the oil makes a mouth-watering gravy or lubricative vinaigrette.
Lubricative vinaigrette. Wow.
Yes.
Louis has a very sophisticated palate.
Let's see.
Okay, one more and then let's move on.
One more. Let's check out the Titan Dweevil.
Okay. Sure, what's the final boss taste like?
Eaten raw, the predator's luxurious legs are bold and full-flavored. What a satisfying crunch. Period. He has an entry for the thing that he rode on top of to fight you.
Wait, I thought that it, tried to eat him or something.
No, he, I don't know. Something weird happened.
Anyway.
Just one more. Okay, the Mamuda. This is the funny one I was looking for. It's like this little stone thingy that it slams its hands into the ground, and if it catches the Pikmin there, it, puts them in the ground like snaggers.
Oh, I hate those things.
Yep. The entry is inedible. Tastes like chicken.
Oh, man. I love that he says inedible, and then he says what it tastes like. That's Louis.
Yep.
Okay.
So, as refreshing of a break as the Glutton's Kitchen is, though, I also remember there being a dungeon in this area with a monster who is particularly annoying.
Yes.
And that is the Water Wraith. This is for me, this is the big boss of this area.
So, Chuck Conroy played through Pikmin 2, and his quote from this dungeon is, "I don't want to speak too soon. I really don't want to speak too soon. But I think that's the last treasure, and we've gone without setting off what it is I'm so afraid of." And then the Water Wraith falls from the ceiling, and he's just like, "I just had to open my mouth. I just had to say it. As soon as I finished saying it, you suck! You suck, game!" And then his mass genocide of over half of his Pikmin to the Water Wraith.
So, what do you remember about the Water Wraith battle?
It's... Actually, the entire dungeon is the Water Wraith battle. If you take too long on a floor, it appears, and then the further down you go, the less time you have until it appears. And you can't kill it, and it just comes toward you, and it rolls over... If it rolls over your Pikmin, they just instantly die.
How do you kill it, eventually? Isn't it with the purples?
Yeah, there's a purple candy, there's a purple, what's it called?
Flower?
Yeah. I think it's a candy pop bud or something. But yeah, there's purple flower at the bottom, and you can throw those at the Water Wraith, and it gets a physical form.
Gotcha. Ugh, yeah, that enemy, he's the worst. And so I think you mentioned this when we were talking about the boss battle music, but so do all the bosses in this game have the same music?
Yes, except for the Titan Dweevil, I think. I think the Titan Dweevil has different music. And then the Water Wraith. The Water Wraith has specific music for when it's coming after you on the floors, which is our next track.
Oh, so the boss battle theme plays when you actually fight it, but when it's chasing you and the horrifying, that's when this game turns into a horror game, is when the Water Wraith is chasing you. It's really terrifying.
Yes.
So, let's see if the music sort of matches that feel.
It does. right, and that was The Water Wraith is Coming from Five Nights at from Pikmin 2.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. Pretty intense stuff right there. Sorry if any of you who were expecting just a nice chill Pikmin music episode are a little on edge now. But sometimes these games are just legit, straight up terrifying.
Yeah.
And there is another Wraith that we will talk about here in a little bit that we encounter later that is also really horrible.
Yep.
But we're not quite there yet. The Water Wraith is bad enough, but let us leave it behind, because after you beat the Water Wraith's dungeon, I believe that's the point when you can finally go to the last area of the game, which is called...
Well, no, actually. You get there when you pay off the debt. It's...
Oh, right. So it's not like tied to a certain dungeon after you pay off a certain amount of debt. Okay, gotcha. But the last area of the game, that's when the president can join you, right? Because Louis has been kidnapped. Or something. Something happened.
Yeah, when you left for Honkatate, you accidentally left him behind.
Accidentally. Oh, man.
Well, I mean, it probably was, but still.
Well, yeah, Olimar is nicer than Louis. But, so yeah, you go back, you get Louis, you try to find more treasure, and what area do you land in the autumn when you go back for Louis?
You land in Wistful Wild.
Wistful Wild.
The autumn area.
Yeah. I remember really liking the name of this area. I think I like the theme, too. Do we have the music from this one on this episode?
The Wistful Wild theme?
Yes.
Yes.
Ooh.
That is our next track.
All right. Well, hey, why don't we go ahead and get into it?
All right.
And is this the last track from Pikmin 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, here we go. Last track from Pikmin 2, The Wistful Wild.
That was Wistful Wild from Pikmin 2.
Such a weird...
I love that track.
Cool little track.
All the Pikmin tracks are weird.
It's kind of mysterious, and I don't know. It does have a little bit of a wistful sound to it. I think that wood flute,
pan flute,
that pan flute instruments is really, really evocative. This whole area is full of like reds and oranges and autumn colors, and it's a really different looking area to the rest of the game and from the rest of the game.
Also, because it's the end game area, there's Gatling Groinks and other very, very annoying enemies.
Yeah.
Such as the Mamuda.
Gatling Groinks. Don't they have like Gatling guns?
Yeah, they have little shields on their faces. You have to attack them from behind.
Oh yeah, and then they can turn
they-
around and like just shoot you.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They have guns.
Where did these enemies, I guess they just evolved from, technology and nature, but...
Well, I mean, there is that theory that, Pikmin were engineered as sort of bioweapons against humanity.
Oh, gotcha.
And, things like the Groink and Man-at-Legs were some of humanity's, attempts to ward them off.
Gotcha, yeah.
I mean, they could have just used,
Now, where does the Plasma Wraith come from?
weapons. I don't know, it could be another thing. Engineered in a lab or something.
Gotcha.
Some sort of nuclear reaction.
I don't know.
Something like that.
But what I know is
There's
this area...
a lot of room for speculation in Pikmin.
This area is pretty cool. But so you go through and eventually rescue Louie from the horrible, horrible, horrible to fight Titan Dweevil. Oh, that thing is annoying. It basically has all the different kinds of attacks in the game. It's actually it's fun if you're prepared for it, because you kind of have to strategize, and it takes a lot of thought. You can't just throw a whole bunch of purple Pikmin at it and expect to win.
Yep, the strategy is to throw a bunch of yellow Pikmin at it and expect to win. Because the yellow Pikmin are the only ones that are, immune to
electricity, which electricity will instant
everything
kill.
Else.
But fire and poison, you have a little bit of time to save them with your whistle.
Fire and poison and water. They get little bubbles on their heads and they die. Science, physics.
So, that is the end of Pikmin 2. And then Olimar goes back to his family, and Louie goes back, and they live happily ever after.
Until the prologue of Pikmin 3.
Yeah.
Where Olimar goes back to get more treasure. And then gets kidnapped by the Plasma Wraith.
Yep. Which we will get to in a moment. But first, Pikmin 3. So in this game, Hajime Wakai was joined by 2 other composers. There's Atsuko Asahi, who works for Nintendo, and she has worked on several different games lately. First on Animal Crossing New Leaf, I believe that was her first one, but also on Mario Kart 8 and ARMS. So, very nice musical pedigree there. And also Asuka Hayazaki, also better known as Asuka Ota, a longtime Nintendo composer, who Hayazaki is her married name, and she has been working with Nintendo since 2003, so 18 years at this point she's been working with Nintendo. And she has composed also for a variety of games, including several titles in the Mario and Zelda franchises. Ooh. So by this point, Wakai had kind of come up in the world, and so had Asuka Hayazaki and some of these other composers here. And a lot of that's because while there were 3 years between Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, how many years were there between Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3?
A lot.
Didn't Pikmin 3 come out in 2012 for the Wii U?
Oh my gosh.
Is that right? So 8 years between Pikmin 2 and Pikmin 3. And just this year, right? This year or last, did Pikmin 3 Deluxe came.
I think it was this year.
So, I believe 2021, Pikmin 3 Deluxe came out for the Switch. So, then 9 years between Pikmin 3 and its re-release as an enhanced port. And we're still waiting on Pikmin 4.
Oh boy.
So, doesn't
Apparently
bode,
it's in development, but not a super high priority.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well. It's been in development for longer than Metroid Prime 4 or Breath of the Wild 2, and yet we've heard about those 2 games, at least something, and we haven't heard anything about Pikmin 4, except still working on it.
Gosh.
So, now Pikmin 3's music has a more natural and simple atmospheric effect rather than really melodically strong tunes, which is why it kind of makes sense that we only have 3 from this soundtrack tonight. Every area in Pikmin 3 has a total of 6 musical variations. You no longer have a specific musical variation when there's like a fight going on. There's just like some extra percussion instruments that come in, but you do have variants of songs that play while your Pikmin are performing tasks, like building bridges or stuff like that. So there's the morning work, afternoon, evening, and weather. Fun fact, the same weather music plays in all the regions except for the Formidable Oak and the Distant Tundra, which have their own unique weather themes. Mm-hmm. There's also the same music plays in all of the cave areas, regardless of what major area the cave is in.
Yep.
All bosses also share the same theme, except for the Behemoth Phosbat and the Plasma Wraith, which Shukapow already mentioned.
Oh gosh.
Both of which have unique themes. All mini-bosses share a remixed version of Pikmin 2's boss theme. So, in every official trailer of the game, the main theme from the game's mission mode was used. So this is the first Pikmin game when Strawberry Flower did not perform the trailer themes. So, what is our first track from Pikmin 3 going to be, Shukapow?
Well, first up, we have the first area, Garden of Hope.
Garden of Hope.
Technically, the third area, but it's the first area that you
actually really go to.
Right.
And that was The Forest of Hope from Pikmin, released in 2001. Wait, no. This is The Garden of Hope from Pikmin 3.
That was very nice. And I think you can tell, when it comes to production, that this game came out 8 years later than the last game we just listened to. Because these instruments sound much nicer. But, this is a lot less melodic and is a lot more ambient and atmospheric, and it's just generally nice to listen to. I dig it. Pikmin 3 is probably my favorite game in the series. I really enjoyed this one a lot. I liked the characters quite a bit. I don't think we really need to get into, like, you go to this area, then you go to this area, then you go to this area, because this game, it follows a similar formula in that regard. But you can tell us a little bit about how the game starts out. So, who are the main protagonists of Pikmin 3? Do you remember your ABCs?
Yes, Alf, Brittany, and Charlie.
Yep.
They're from Kopai, and they're running out of food, so they try to find a planet with food. The Kopaians, I mean.
The Kopaians are the same size as the Hakatatians.
Yes.
And their research takes them to a planet that has a lot of fruit on it.
It's called PNF404.
Yeah.
Wait, that was the name of the one that Olimar and Louie went to.
What?
Whoa!
Wow. So, yeah. So they get there, and like all captains who come to this planet seem to do, they crash land.
No one knows how, but...
And Alf ends up in, this area, right?
No, Alf ends up in the Tropical Wilds, which we'll get to in a second.
Oh yeah, Tropical Wilds.
He finds the red Pikmin.
Ends up somewhere else.
Yeah, she ends up in the Garden of Hope, but we don't actually get her point of view.
Right.
Because she's just trapped in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And then Charlie goes to the tundra and gets eaten.
The tundra, yes. Charlie gets eaten. Charlie is the commander.
Yes. Alf is the engineer. Brittany's the food expert.
Brittany's the food expert. And in this game, unlike the past games, you don't find treasure or ship parts, but you find fruit, which your ship turns into juice, which you can take back to Kopai and make more juice. And that's kind of how you go through this game. And I love these characters. They have a lot of charm. They're very cute. Mm-hmm. And Charlie he's just cool. I love Charlie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so you go through and there are two new varieties of Pikmin in this game. The purple Pikmin and white Pikmin are no longer anywhere to be seen.
Except in challenge mode.
Yeah. But in their place, in story mode, we are introduced to the very durable rock Pikmin.
They're made of rocks.
Yes.
They are rocks.
They can stun enemies, and you can also use them to break crystal. And then you have the winged Pikmin, which are really cool. They're very fragile, but they can also carry stuff like across gaps. And
like if winged Pikmin were a Pokemon, their lowest stat would be attack and their highest would be speed.
Yeah. So, yeah. That was Garden of Hope, which is the area where you find Brittany and the blue Pikmin, I believe. But we don't have to get into all the specifics of all that. So, what have you got to say about Pikmin 3?
It's much better than the other two, and then the deluxe version just improves on that.
So, why don't we go ahead and play our next track, and then when we come back, we can talk a little about the deluxe version.
Yes. Next up we have Tropical Wild. That was Tropical Wilds from Pikmin 3.
Alright. And I was actually checking while we were gone. I think that the only Pikmin song that we have played so far on this show is the one that I picked for episode 1-8, which was when I picked some of my favorite songs from some of your favorite games. And I picked the Garden of Hope Sunset theme. And, yeah, so Pikmin 3 is the only game from the Pikmin series that we've played a song from before tonight. So, I'd say this was long overdue, and this was a lot of fun. And if anybody wants to, Shukapow also had kind of a long talk about Pikmin on that episode that went on so long I actually cut it out and made it its own little mini episode.
Yep. And the Hollow Knight.
Yep, with Hollow Knight as well. So if you want to go check those out, they came out sometime last summer, so you can go find those on the YouTube channel or look them up on your podcatcher feed. Those two little minisodes were called Shukapow Shoots the Breeze.
Yep.
And they were fun. They were nice. But yeah, so Tropical Wilds, this is where Alf wakes up. And Alf looks a lot like Olimar, a younger Olimar, maybe. But he finds the red Pikmin, and he's the one who sort of starts out the adventure. And eventually you do find your other captains and rescue them. And then you also find somebody else. Who did they run into, Shukapow?
Yes, they find a Louie later on.
Yeah.
And they think he's Olimar.
Yep. Oh, because they've been finding Olimar's notes as they go all around. And they give them kind of some tips, and so they form like this impression of Olimar and who he must be. And yeah, they think Louie is Olimar, and Louie is in like shock or something, and so he can't really talk. And so they take Louie back to their ship, and he's very grateful and treats them with dignity and respect.
Nah.
What does he do?
He steals all of the food and runs away.
Yes, he does. Oh, Louie is the worst.
Yeah.
Louie is just the absolute worst. Wait, just realized something. Olimar. We said his name is based on Mario. Luigi.
Yo!
But that doesn't carry on to Alf and Brittany and Charlie, though. So, yeah. I wonder what Olimar... Do we ever find out what Olimar's wife's name is?
No.
Interesting. All right. So, yeah. They find Louis, and he steals other stuff and runs away. So they go and catch him. How did they end up going to the Forbidden Oak? That's where they find Olimar, right? That's where the plasma
Yeah,
Wraith
I think
is?
they just see it on the map at some point.
Okay, and they go there, and then there's the Plasm Wraith. Here's the thing about the Plasm Wraith fight. It's not really hard. You can survive it, but there's time limits. And the first time I fought the Plasm Wraith, I was right up to the end, and I ran out of time. And it was the worst ever. Ugh. But then I went back and I beat it. I was frustrated at first, though. It was hard. And then, yes, you meet Olimar and rescue him. And then at that point, Pikmin 3 originally, it basically ends.
Yep.
And Pikmin 3 Deluxe, however, adds something extra. Tell us a little about what Pikmin 3 Deluxe brings to the series, Shukapow.
It gives you the prologue where Olimar goes down to PNF 404 again for some treasure. And then the epilogue where he goes back because the president wants him to get back the Hoctate freight ship, which, was the ship in Pikmin 2.
Right. That's all the epilogue does?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow. It's kind of a letdown.
I mean, I haven't really played the epilogue. I played a bit of the prologue with RJ a while back.
Okay, well, eventually then, when we get this, or when RJ lets you borrow it, we can play the epilogue. What do you think? Do you think you actually want to own Pikmin 3
Yes.
Deluxe? Okay. Alright, I wasn't sure if you would want to pay full price for this, but it does sound like it added some stuff. It also added more, two-player content, right?
Yeah, it did. It has the story can be played in 2-player now, which is really cool.
Yeah.
We can do that together.
We can. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Well, maybe at some point we'll have to go in on this together when we get some more money or something. But you have a birthday coming up, and you still got a little bit of Nintendo cash that the Easter Bunny gave you. So, are you still thinking you're going to buy that Bug Fables game?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good deal. I will look forward to that then. That has some similarities to Pikmin, except in this game, you kill bugs. In that game, you are bugs. And Pikmin is its own thing, and Bug Fables is kind of similar to Paper Mario. Kind of really similar to Paper Mario. Anyway. Alright, well. Do you have much else left to say about Pikmin 3?
Not really.
So yeah, this is kind of an example of how, even though a game can be better in every way than its original, or than its a direct, not really prequel, because that's when you make a game, or make something that comes before something else after the fact. Predecessor. It's direct predecessor.
Yes.
Because Pikmin 3 is better than Pikmin 2. It is. But we're both more nostalgic for Pikmin 2, and so we had more to say about it. So, but yeah, this is a great game. I would definitely recommend everybody check it out. If you haven't ever played Pikmin before, Pikmin 3 is a great place to start. You really don't need to know anything. The controls are buttery smooth, and it's really fun. It's just the right level of challenge. There are things you can complete in a single sitting, and now it's on the Switch. So it's the best time to jump in if you haven't ever played a Pikmin game before.
Yep.
But, you know what? Before we close out the show, Shukapow, what is our last Pikmin song?
Well, we've got one more from Pikmin 3. Bingo Battle.
Bingo Battle.
And the track is called One More.
And that was one more from Pikmin 3.
I remember this theme.
Yep.
You know,
I love Bingo Battle.
I think I can count the number of times that I beat you in Bingo Battle on one hand, but I loved it too. It's a lot of fun. So in Bingo Battle, you face off against each other, and you're trying to. You can go around this area that is usually a square, but there's different places you can go, and you try to collect different things, different enemies or treasures or fruits or something, and take them back to your ship, and you have like this 4x4 grid that you're trying to get a bingo on. When you get a bingo, you win. You can also find these little cherry things and take them back to your ship, and they give you a bonus.
Yep.
And sometimes this bonus...
And those are very, very fun.
Yeah, sometimes this bonus makes all of your Pikmin spicy, which makes them super strong and fast. And sometimes you drop a rain of bombs on your opponents, or something like that. And so, yeah, Bingo Battle is super fun. The two-player content in Pikmin 3 is really top-notch. Yeah. Really good stuff. This is a fun track. This is what plays when you have almost your bingo. Like you have one square left. When either player has one square left to get their bingo. It's really cool. Kind of frantic, but not like scary frantic. It's very playful. Well, Shukapau, you have had some excellent picks this episode. I think that you did a good job of, and so modest too. I think you did a good job of showcasing the different musical sounds of the Pikmin series. Once again, the Pikmin series was composed by Hajime Wakai. He was also joined on Pikmin 3 by Atsuko Asahi and Asuka Hayazaki. And so, yeah, you can see in the show notes when these games came out and everything. And you can also find in the show notes links to a few things. First of all, I'd like to thank our patrons who make every episode of the show possible, because without them, I might have actually stopped a few times, because this gets hectic, but I love it so much, and it's really a good time. Even though I have to hang out with this annoying kid. No, that's the best part. I love it so much. But, Shukapau, who are some of our patrons? Let's go back and forth like we always do.
Yes. Daryl, the Last Rican, he does VGM Fight Club.
Yeah. Then there is Alex the Messenger, patron saint of all VGM podcasts, who is the host of A VGM Journey.
Ryan, the Catlandia guy.
Yes, Ryan Steele, composer of Catlandia, who we heard last week.
Who was also Lapras. Yay.
Yay, yep. Then we have Forrest Shamlian, who is the creator of the Castle Corp series. And actually Tower Talks, which encompasses Castle Corp and the new Bomb Show, starring Bomber John. Don't call him Bomberman. He will blow you up.
And himself.
Yes.
Scouttroy, who is also not yet a Pokemon. He does the theme song. He's theme song guy. And also SNES Thrash Remix guy.
Yes. Also, Kung Fu Carlito, Carlos Leon Roman, the host of the Heroes 3 podcast, one of our lovely artists. And finally, of course, the mysterious Nathan.
Who is White Kyurem.
White Kyurem. He has his own Pokemon, but we still don't know who he is. But thank you all
Nathan is radiating a blazing aura.
Thank you all for your supports. And thank you everyone who is hearing this right now for listening. Every time I look on Anchor, I am so shocked and just appreciative of how many people actually listen to this show. Shukapau, our Zelda Town Themes episode blew up. Like, it is our most popular episode by far. It has eclipsed the podcast tribute two-pair bonus episodes. It has even eclipsed the Kirby Halloween episode, which until recently was our most popular episode. So, yeah, apparently y'all like it when we do specific focuses. The Undertale episode also did pretty well, so we'll see how Pikmin does. I would also like to thank our artists, Ben the Dyad Dishman, who did our pixel art, and Naomi Rubin, who did our lovely, lovely podcast cover art. And, yeah. So, Shukapau, where can our listeners find you if they want to seek you out online?
On flat.io, at Loitering for Smash.
where you compose quite a bit of music.
Yes, I do compose quite a bit of music. I am very good at composing music.
And they can also find you
on Twitter at ShootKapow, which has been blocked on my school computers. I hate you.
Yeah, so he might not be on there quite as much as recently.
At least for next week.
Once school's out, ShootKapow will probably be using the family computer a little more to do that. And you can also find this podcast now, not just in the usual places like YouTube and your podcatcher, and by email at verygoodmusicvgm@gmail.com, and on anchor.fm, where you can leave us a voicemail. You can also now talk to us on Twitter at VGMPod. You can also find us on Discord. Link will be in the show notes. And yeah, that's probably where we chat the most. I do post things on Twitter, and I'll retweet and follow and stuff like that. And so I do post some things there, and every time a show comes out, I'll post it there and on Discord. But Discord is where we really talk, and I've kind of the Discord has kind of blown up a little bit recently as well. Every week, I'm going to start posting kind of a VGM challenge where I ask people to bring like their favorite song or a song they really like in a certain theme. And we just kind of generally chat, so there's a place to promote your own work, because I definitely believe in continuing to foster this community that has done so much for us. And ShootKapow, what are we going to be talking about next week?
It's a grab bag episode. It's the where we pick a bunch of themes that we just want to pick.
Yeah, pick a bunch of songs that either we kind of wanted to pick before but haven't really fit into a theme, or it's just something that we've heard that we really want people to listen to, or one of our favorites that just hasn't really, we haven't had a chance to play yet. And I am really excited. We're each going to pick 7 tracks, and we'll just kind of go with it and see what happens. But this grab bag thing is actually how a lot of podcasts just kind of do their thing. A lot of times they don't necessarily follow a specific theme. They just kind of bring stuff. And you know what, now I think about it more and more, that's not true. I'm having trouble thinking of, other than certain shows like Alex just brings kind of a mix of episodes. He doesn't usually do themes on VGM Journey.
Yeah.
Hammock of KVGM The Last Wave, also a friend of the show, does smooth jams. But other than that, doesn't really do like themes. But all of the duo shows that I can think of do thematic episodes, but occasionally they'll just do kind of a grab bag thing. I think I first came across this on, the Marcato Bros called them show and tell episodes, but I think XVGM also calls them grab bags. Anyway, it's going to be really fun. You'll get to hear some of the stuff that we just kind of generally like when we're not trying to fit a theme. And I want to give a shout out to, we've already mentioned the Last Rican, but he recently did a really, really awesome episode. It was a 4-way battle between himself, Hammock, who was the VGM Fight Club champion, John J. Gangsta Harrington of Game That Tune, which is also an excellent, excellent show. If you're looking for something different and fun, not like a lot of the other podcasts out there, Game That Tune is it's a weekly sort of guessing game podcast, VGM podcast show. It's really, really fun. Not necessarily safe for work. It's not a kid-friendly show like some of the other ones are, but it is.
Ours are. It
is a bleep of a lot of fun. And, but anyway, and myself. So the 4 of us squared off in the squared circle using licensed music. And it was a stacked episode. Like, it was really, really great music. It ended in a 3-way tie. And so what Last Rican did is he actually made wrestlers for each of us in WWE 2K18. And we all fought it out in a Hell in a Cell match, which is what he called this was licensing Hell in a Cell, which I thought was kind of clever of him. But yeah, so go check out that episode. It was really, really fun. I won't tell you who won. You can go check it out. You can find those videos where our wrestlers fight on the Last Rican's YouTube page, which I think is called The Next Save Point. And yeah, go check them out. Tell them Bedrot sent you. And ShootKapow, am I forgetting anything?
Not really, but there is one thing I wanted to do before we shut down for the night.
Okay, what is that?
Wanted to read off some of Sugar Conroy's funniest quotes and moments from his Pikmin 2 playthrough.
Alright, why don't you give us a few of those? I know We talked about how Chugga Conroy means a lot to you on this show.
Yes, Chugga Conroy is very poggers.
Oh, by the way, our train episode, Jeff has renamed that Very Pogger and the VGM Hype Train of Hype Cool VGM.
Yeah.
Alright, so, give us some Chugga Conroy pearls of wisdom.
Red leaves already? Today is just not my day. The red leaf Pikmin, in Pikmin 1, he named them Steve. He said, "We will call him Steve and we will not like him."
Oh.
Funny thing about Steve, he actually, at one point in the Forest Naval, one red leaf Pikmin was just like trying to bring back a fiery blowhog all by itself, and he was like, "Okay, I'm not losing a Pikmin today." He was looking around, and he found him. He was like, "Wait, this Steve, he spent all day trying to bring back a fiery blowhog by himself. Steve? Steve's a trooper?"
Oh, man.
There was the aforementioned incident with the water wraith. Another incident in the submerged castle. I chose then to look away. When a lot of his Pikmin died from a volatile Dweevil in the submerged castle, which, as we said before, instantly kills everything except yellow Pikmin. It's volatile because
Yes.
electricity. And then minutes later, well, there's the water wraith. That's my cue to reset. Pikmin world peace. Don't tongue my purple. Probably in a boss fight with the Emperor Bulblax.
Yes, which likes to stick out its tongue and lap up your Pikmin.
We'll just have my 10 whites work on these poison nipples. The poison hazards, you know how
Oh,
there's
yes,
the little
yeah,
orange...
the little spigots pop up and spit poison everywhere. Alright, one more.
Pikmin AI! Which was not fixed all the way in Pikmin 3. When I was playing Pikmin 3 Deluxe with RJ, we had a bunch of Pikmin try to bring back, I think it was an insect condo, which is an apple. It was trying to bring that back to the ship through a wall. When there was a pathway right next to it.
I will say for everybody, when I mentioned earlier that you should get this game, that does not happen a lot. It's fairly rare.
It was the last treasure. And we spent half of the mission trying to push that apple over the wall because the Pikmin would not give up.
Oh, how did that end? I have to know before we shut down.
We got it partway up the wall, but then we just ran out of time.
Sad day. And so another insect condo goes under.
Presidential punch. The captains can punch in Pikmin games.
Yes. Oh yeah, the president has a presidential punch.
He does.
Right.
He does have a presidential punch.
Alright everyone, well, go enjoy a nice presidential punch. Until next time, play very good games.
Be very good people.
And keep listening to
very good music. Email you.
Show us why you travel.
No, I don't want to show you why I travel. Stop. Pause the video. Gosh, I hate this.
YouTube. Yay. Alright.
Were you recording that?
Yep.
Nice.
That's gold right there, man.
I'm gonna email you the
link to the rights version.
Yes. There you go. Okay. Let's go.
This is just for Daryl. I'm gonna put in the blooper reel.
Now see it coming. You think that
there you go. Alright. No, we're not gonna. Well, let's not go there. This is a silly place.
Alright, this is a different battle theme.
Greetings, gamers. No, hold on.
And we're back from eating gummy vitamins.
Eating gummy vitamins. That's an interesting track title there. Wait, that's not what you said. Because our patrons chose one of our, I was going to say our first single game showcase, but we just did that last week, and we've done it a couple times before. But our patrons picked our first single game showcase when it was just you and me. And, well, no. Rewind. Our patrons picked our first ever series showcase. We haven't really done one about, no, we've done that too. Pokemon. Man, I'm just not remembering my own podcast tonight. Anyway, there is also the theme song I Know Uta, which I mentioned.
No, don't do that. Pokemon music, am I right?
We already did that episode, though.
We already did it.
This soundtrack was composed by... Blooper reel, I guess.
Hajime Wakai.
Hajime Wakai. I have a cat looking at me upside down. Hi, Misty. Hey.
Wait a second.
Hey. She was just looking at me like, pet me, pet me. Ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Cat, say hi. Say hi, Cat. Cat, are you gonna say hi? She's not gonna say hi.
There are 4 areas in Pikmin 4, and they're all based on the different seasons.
Pikmin 4.
Pikmin. There are 4 areas in Pikmin 2.
While there were 3 games in between Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2, Shukapao... games. 3 years between Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 2. You get the Pikmin out of your onion.
Oh yeah, a pretty important thing. The Pikmin, so the creatures on the planet, which Olimar names PNF 404. Purnell, who is also a Lapras. Oh wait, no, Purnell is a patron.
Purnell's not a patron. He's a friend of the show. And he's also a Lapras, but he's not a patron. But who is a patron?
This sign can't stop me because I can't read.
Yep. Sometimes these games are just...
My fork, no.
May the fork be with you. And until next time, stop playing with the mic, and be very good. Whoa, no, that's not how it works. Blooper reel.
Yay. Inedible. Tastes like chicken.